Welcome to the ChainTrends Crypto Podcast. Non-fungible tokens remain an arcane subject despite stealing most of the headlines this calendar year. I hope to shine some light on what's happening today in the world of NFTs and where it's headed. Thank you for viewing. This is not financial advice. Be sure to do all your own research. The purposes of this content are for education and entertainment. Please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. I'm very pleased tonight that I'm joined by Charles Adkins, NFT lead of Polygon. I'm very excited for this interview. Charles, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, definitely, Michael. Yeah, thanks for letting me come on the show. It's exciting.
Awesome. Can we just start a little bit by tell me how you got to where you are today, which is the NFT lead of Polygon. Matic is a protocol I talk about a lot on my channel. Big fan of the protocol. Tell me how you ended up getting involved in NFTs with Polygon.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you like kind of a quick backstory on that. So I'm, started out in tech kind of in the mid 90s, one of the first people to kind of come up and start doing digital marketing during that time. As a teenager, ended up brokering some banner ads for Yahoo in the late 90s, which is like real interesting. So I kind of ended up going away from that into investment banking for a while, then got back into marketing and started learning all these brands were starting to get into the Web 2.0. So Web 2.0 on social, and I like to tell people, Web 1 was read, Web 2 is read and write, and Web 3 is read, write, and own. So it's a different economy. And so just going through that process and seeing that first wave, then the second wave, and I had been in marketing with a lot of major brands for a while, and then I invested in crypto, started seeing the NFT space pick up. Very quickly, I started seeing trends that lined up with Web 1 and Web 2 and how that explosion happened. And I said, okay, this is something I really need to get back into pretty quickly. And got linked up with a Mark Cuban, Ashton Kutcher, Anthony Pompliano studio, which was NFT Genius. They kind of got me the start in the NFT world, and then got recruited by Polygon just by nature of the brands that I work with and kind of my background in the corporate consumer space. They felt like it would be a good crossover, and now we're just crushing it on Polygon as much as we can.
Amazing, yeah. Wow, that's some background. I didn't even know that. Could you unpack that a little bit? How did you exactly get started? You mentioned that you got started a little bit with Pomp and some of those guys. Can you unpack that a little?
So NFT Genius actually, and they're still going right now. They're actually the creators of Bitcoin Origins, which was on the Wax blockchain. Super cool, like treasure hunt storytelling. Kind of a pathway that they did pack drops and people could actually win a full Bitcoin. And then they, got their seed round investment from Mark Cuban, Guy Osiri, Anthony Pompliano, Roham at Dapper Labs, kind of collaborated all on the seed round. And right now they're in the process of actually getting up a pretty awesome marketplace on Flow. So they're building a Flow marketplace, stand up right next to Top Shot, the NFL and UFC. And they launch a lot of major IPs, brands, and celebrities. And, coming along with a lot of those major IPs, they have their own marketing departments, their own theory on strategy. And I mean, I still love those guys at NFT Genius, and they kind of opened the door for me to really take this super awesome opportunity at Polygon. So always grateful for those guys, like super heavy thought leaders in the space. So, I mean, I still look to them for tons of advice.
Wow, yeah, and Polygon is a layer 2 scaling solution. I mentioned or talk about it quite a bit on my channel. It's kind of in the Ethereum family. And who did you link up with to get that started? Because you took some time away and then hopped right in there, or?
No, so I actually, when I was at NFT Genius, I put together an event called the NFT Experience, and we had 48 speakers come in and 2-day event. We did have Mark Cuban and Roham as some of our keynote speakers at NFT Genius, and then just by nature of that kind of propagating throughout the universe, some of the recruiters at Polygon saw that go down, and they started reaching out to me on LinkedIn and made me the old mafia offer, gave me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want this content to be friendly to anybody. So
Yeah.
I want to start real basic, whether they watch it today or they watch it 6 months from now. Describe, as easily as you can, what is an NFT?
An NFT is really just a blockchain record that does not have a one-to-one value with an actual currency. Um, Cryptocurrencies have a peg to them. They're, considered fungible. You can exchange it for a dollar. An NFT could be, just a digital ledger. It could be your identification. It could be a piece of art. It could be an action of you swinging a sword in a game. It's just a piece of data that writes to the blockchain. It's not artwork, and I know a lot of people say an
Right.
NFT is art, and it's so much more than that.
Right. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into with this. So it's a piece of data that operates in another on the blockchain. So it could be a skin in a video game. It could be a piece of art. It could be any collectible. What I'm particularly fascinated in is consumer brands and how that can improve the relationships between business to business, business to client. And Rob Paul says it has a really good saying too. This is an opportunity for retail to front run Wall Street, this is an exciting time for that. So can you elaborate a little bit on how consumer brands can use NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, consumer brands, especially in what we've seen in the entertainment space, is a lot of people are using NFTs to kind of pre-finance their movies and animations. And for a while, we were kind of making a joke. I mean, they haven't done it yet, but obviously back in the day when Netflix kind of took out Blockbuster, it was like, oh, technology took out the old dinosaur. And I was saying, wouldn't that be funny if Blockbuster actually re-released NFT access movie rentals and they took out Netflix, because Netflix isn't even looking at NFTs right now. So,
Right.
they could kind of do that. But on the consumer brand side, it really keeps top of mind. If you do an NFT drop that has some access and utility, I know on Polygon we did the Dolce and Gabbana NFT drop through UNXD, and yeah, that's cool. It was digital art. There was also physical clothing, but if you read the small print, whoever bought those, they get full access to the DNG like private clubs in Italy. They get to go to fly to Italy and help design, jackets and suits with like the head designers. There's just all these other access pieces that gives people behind the scenes just access points, and it's just really interesting that brands can connect with consumers at a level like that.
Yeah, amazing, right? And when you say I mean, that, can you use an example? Can you actually use the Dolce and Gabbana example? Like, what's that like? I know they got 5.7 million. It was an NFT collection.
Yeah.
Can you kind of break down what that entails exactly? Like, how did that partnership play out, and what the owners of the tokens actually get?
Yeah, I mean, as far as all the particulars, I mean, each one had different aspects to it. There was clothing pieces that people had access to. Then they did 4 digital only like NFT crowns, and each one of them just had different access points to like go visit, the museums and be with the brands and be with the designers. There's a lot of people doing that, especially in like the music space. So people will buy the music NFTs and they get backstage passes, or there's certain things like that. So I mean, it's just really interesting how brands can connect with their consumers, and you get that NFT piece of artwork to keep forever. So I mean, it's just something that stays in your wallet and you get to have it forever.
Yeah. And we're still kind of in the very early stages, right? I think it's like, if you're comparing it to the internet, it's like where in terms of number of users, something like 1997 or 1998 or something like that. So it's still very early. It's still very fragmented and difficult, right? Like, I don't feel like my mom can receive and store an NFT quite yet. Do you foresee, where are we on the roadmap? Let me rephrase that. Where are we on the roadmap to seamless usability for everyday people?
We're probably more 1989 than 1999. And the
Okay.
reason I say that is because from, 1985 to 1995, the only way to transfer files across a phone line was the FTP protocol. And it's just everyone thought that was awesome. Like, hey, I could send this information or send an email. I mean, you could send an email, a basic email, but it wasn't until Tim Berners-Lee in 95 did the HTTP, which was the quote unquote protocol. So I try to tell people in layman's terms, think of the different blockchains out there as your browser. So we have Chrome, we have Microsoft Edge, you have Safari, but it doesn't matter. You can go type in, YouTube right now and it shows up on any browser.
Mhm.
We don't have an interoperable protocol where I could go to any blockchain, type in a contract address and have that come up. So we're basically pre www dot when it comes to the blockchain space. Like someone's going to invent that protocol and hopefully someone's working on it quickly, because I think that's going to be the key unlock for the general population, is just making it as simple as typing in a web address.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's, I don't know, like YouTube kind of, it was this, how YouTube kind of seamlessly made it easy to upload video. But I think it was like an SNL skit that really blew it up. It was that Justin Timberlake skit. It was like one of the first time. Yeah. That event kind of like pushed it. Like it wasn't just, it changed it. I still think we kind of need that event in the blockchain space. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think we'll have an idea when we see it. But one area that I definitely could see that happening is sports. I mean, American sports are huge. How can NFTs play a role in that area?
Yeah, I mean, in the sports side, obviously with NBA Top Shot, they did a great job bringing on users in the beginning. I will say, like, the active wallets have kind of dropped off as opposed to like the wallets that are just kind of sitting there. Um, I would say a lot of that has to do with, and obviously, I mean, I love the Flow blockchain and Dapper's, coming out with their wallet pretty soon. But the onboarding, kind of to your point, like my mom or anyone from like a generation older than us is not going to understand how to navigate that wallet onboarding. So I think it's going to take, companies out there that have the single sign-on solutions. Like there's, Venly out there. There's a couple other like Taurus. Just that like that SSO solution where you can still pay in fiat, you can pay in debit and credit card, and it's not, it's not necessarily a financial transaction where the decentralization matters as much as like, hey, I just want the digital collectible. And like that's kind of where the crossover is going to happen. I know that a lot of times when people see the smart contract, I know a long time ago when I was on Mintable, I haven't been on there in a while, but when you would go and want to upload your own, photo or artwork and create an NFT, like totally expose the entire smart contract. And so if somebody like my mom is sitting there and she sees all this coding language, I mean, that's like a total red flag for most people that don't understand the space, and they're just going to go bounce right off.
Right.
So I think it's going to be the first company. It's going to have to be a large brand, because it's going to have to be a brand that has a huge following, that has a lot of trust, that says, hey, we're building on the blockchain. You should figure out what it is. We're going to drop NFTs. They are this. And like, it's like I liken it to like Eugene Schwartz, the great like marketing legend. He has like market sophistication level 1. And we're like, is like the first step where basically you have to give everybody an education before you even are able to drop the product. It's like, he was talking about some of the first marketing with Gillette. I mean, the sales pitch was, hey, now you can shave at home, because before that you had to go to a barber to shave.
Right.
So you not only had to like tell people, hey, you can shave at your house, they had to teach you how to shave, how to use a simple razor. And it's like, that's where we're at in NFTs. It's like general population, if you haven't been dug into this community, the education curve is pretty steep right now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So obviously the onboarding is one thing. Do you think sports could be that, like something that bridges that gap? Basketball, I see something like, NBA Top Shots, right? I keep seeing that Socius.com like has something where they do with teams and community building. I think it's called Chili's. Polygon, you got
Yeah.
has some stuff going on. Do you think that maybe the people will come for the NFT, right, and then stick around for the crypto kind of thing? You know, do you
I
think that
think
could
what's
be
good.
something?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the sports thing where it actually will most likely explode is going to be on the fantasy sports side. Like linking NFTs into fantasy sports as like rewards for having like a winning week or something like that. Because I mean, all the fantasy sports and crypto traders, like self-proclaimed total degens, like they obviously like want to get in on the fantasy winnings and collect NFTs, and it's an easy way to have like a trophy room. And so then you get to the point of like, well, I mean, for example, like Mark Cuban, I know he's working on some stuff with lazy.com, his company, that they're wanting to make the Mavs season tickets an NFT, but like beyond that, it's how many years have you held this NFT is what gives you greater access within the stadium and greater access to the players and merchandise and stuff like that. So it's a really good crossover. I mean, sports fans are highly passionate. It's really interesting because sports fans are massively passionate about their teams and about the sports in general. However, they always have been kind of laggards in the technology space. So I think it's a good way to like push NFTs forward because it has that really direct crossover with trading cards. And trading cards in sports fans is like one to one. Like that's a very simple connection. So I think sports fans are actually picking it up pretty quick that these are trading cards in a digital setting, and like I feel like they love that. Like they're on it.
Yeah, yeah, it does, and it is great. How can and that's really another thing too that's so powerful. When you were talking about fantasy sports, it made me think, because one of the things that's so attractive about the NFT part of community building is that you can incentivize behavior, right? So you can kind of really drive engagement with that. And I didn't even think of fantasy sports when I was thinking of that till you said it. And that could be really exciting, really exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
DraftKings is built on Polygon, so I mean, we're lucky to work with them. So
wow, is it?
DraftKings Marketplace is built on Polygon with Tom Brady's autograph products too. So
It's
yeah,
great.
it's
Yeah.
pretty fun. I mean, we haven't like had it cross over into the fantasy side. Right now, it is just a marketplace. But once you start getting that real time fantasy sports data feed and linking that with NFTs, like, I mean, the sky's the limit on that one. You could do crazy stuff.
Right. Yeah, unbelievable. And and this kind of also could fit into anything that you could build a community around. So sports is just one aspect. Social tokens would be like another kind of thing. Influencers, celebrities, and entertainment. How does NFTs kind of fit into that world? The Hollywood world, the entertainment world.
Yeah, that one's been interesting. So a lot of like music artists, if they're with a major label, they're finding it really difficult to get into the NFT space because of the IP rights that come along with music. They're super complex, and there's like, the mechanical rights, the musical rights, the lyric rights. Like there's just so many layers. That's why there's been a real difficulty in like, hey, we're going to build the Spotify of NFTs. It's like that's a tough one. That's a big one to solve. Where it is really working with a lot of the artists on the music side is the live events. So giving out the NFTs to the live events and then using that as your ticket. And that's kind of the thing. I mean, I know, even though not musician, but kind of celebrity, like Beeple's obviously doing his party in NFT NYC, the first, and of course those tickets are all NFTs, which is super cool. On the movie side, um, kind of the same thing. Like a lot of the major studios want to do NFTs. They're trying to wrap their head around what they actually are or why they need them. And so a lot of them are kind of just doing the whole like, oh, we're going to do a drop for The Matrix, or we're going to do a drop for, Space Jam was on Nifty's. And it's like, um, they don't really have a lot of use case after that. But you could do some really cool things with it. I think a lot of these larger like studios, brands, and artists, they're just taking a while to kind of like come to the party. I mean, same on the gaming sector. Like the AAA gaming studios, they're just taking a real long road to the NFT game.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so are you saying, in your opinion, that those aren't necessarily the best sectors for NFT use, or you just think that it's just taking them a little while to get there?
I think they're really awesome. I think where that sector is getting really wound up is on the legal side. Like their lawyers are just like just hassling them about NFTs and like how to use them, and like it's mostly their legal teams that are slowing that down. But I think for that sector, like Hollywood and entertainment is like a really killer space that like needs NFTs like a lot, especially for the creators, because it protects the creators' rights in a lot of cases where they don't necessarily have to turn everything over to a studio. So I think it's really important. I think their lawyers are kind of like slowing that one down.
Yeah. Do you think regulatory clarity will help accelerate or lower the barrier to entry for them, or you do?
I think it'll help a lot, and I think there's a lot of projects out there on the legal side. They're just kind of cloudy. I know that next year a lot of people are going to get 1099s that probably weren't expecting it. I know that every time that somebody out there creates a DAO without thinking about it, and they don't realize they actually have to get KYC and get W9s from everybody voting as a shareholder, they're going to have some real. I mean, you do a 10,000 person PFP drop and you turn that into a DAO. Have fun chasing all those people down for their information to send them some kind of a shareholder voting rights. It's just they won't even give you their first name, let alone try to find them for any of that information. Like it's just
Right.
there's a lot of legal complexity around it, and the hard thing is like there's not even enough smart lawyers or regulators to even understand the space to keep up anyway.
Right.
So
Wow, that's a good point. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And do you expect now we saw MasterCard came in and bought a Cyberpunk, okay? And
Yeah.
do you think that we'll see institutional dollars flow in to NFTs as an asset? Like to hold on their
Yeah, I
balance
do.
sheet. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And I think it's good that we made that definition of NFT at the beginning because um, when I know when you say NFT, like you understand that could be any kind of an investment. I don't want people to think like, oh, they're going to hold art as an investment. Although, if you think about it, a lot of alternative asset management firms have art in their portfolios. Like that's totally
Mhm.
normal, physical art. So they're going to hold digital art. But even more than that, I mean, when municipalities start using like IoT devices connected to your power meter and all of your power usage is written to the blockchain, and that city can actually report how much money they know they're getting from the power, well then they're going to start issuing bonds based on that income. So now it's like your NFT only proves the value of your city, like without question, without due diligence needed, real time due diligence. This is the income our city gets from power. We can release a bond on the open market. And of course, institutions are going to buy like really highly rated bonds, like backed by NFT proof, 100%.
Right. Yeah, so that's another thing that's incredibly exciting, and that's another thing that regulatory clarity will bring. So I really think we're right there. We just need a couple more things answered, and then we could take off.
If there's any lawyers listening, start write faster. That's all I can
Right,
say.
yeah, get to work.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
another aspect as well that I like, it just blows my mind. I love this space so much. I get so excited about it. With supply chain, I read that 30% of fine wines are knockoff, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And then that trend goes across multiple industries and multiple sectors. So NFTs and the blockchain really can shore that up with proof of authenticity. Can you elaborate a little bit about that, and how can NFTs help out and fit in there?
You nailed it, and I didn't even like lead into that, and you didn't even know that. But there's actually, yeah, so like on the Central Coast and Southern Coast in California, there's a lot of wineries talking about having an NFT equivalent to all of their wine labels to verify the authenticity. A lot of them in the Santa Barbara area are actually kind of looking into that. because it's a huge problem, especially in the wine industry. But there's several industries that have knockoffs. I think proof of authenticity is going to be one of the biggest pieces in NFTs as far as supply chain. There's major auto manufacturers that I get to talk to that I won't say the name of, that are thinking about doing all of their verified parts supply chain verification as NFTs, just so it's like, hey, this is a certified blank blank brand part. And yeah, and then even moving all of their auto service records onto the blockchain, so when you resell your car, they can just pull it up on the blockchain and know you're not like fudging any of the service records or like having any funny business happen. So it's like they kind of came to me and described it as, they're like, yeah, we basically want to invent Carfax on steroids. Like we want to do Carfax, but all on the blockchain, so nobody can mess with it. And I was like, that's a cool idea. Yeah, I want to build that. Yeah, we'll build it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that must be the such a satisfying feeling about working in this space, is really contributing to making the world a better place with this incredible and magical technology, right? And how quickly it's happening is really breathtaking.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about a little bit too. In your LinkedIn profile, you volunteer and do a lot of charitable work. I assume.
Totally.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about some of the causes that you're involved in? And then I just had a curiosity. I'm curious, can NFTs help make that an easier thing and make that more of a focus?
Oh yeah, totally. So some of the ones that I work with is like National School Board Association, Wounded Warrior Project, ACLU. Do some volunteer work for the State of California Board of Tourism, and then like the Urban Land Institute. I think in that space, what it's actually doing is it's leveling the playing field on the donor side. So for a lot of those companies right now, I consult with them on communications and making sure that their strategy to reach out to donors is good, and actually have recently talked to World Wildlife Federation too. And so what they're kind of doing now is they're thinking about the creation of NFTs as a reward for donations, but then also, let's say like World Wildlife Fund, for example, doing pack drops of rare animals or rare species, and all of that money goes back into the nonprofit. You get these really beautiful pieces of artwork that you can display. And then every year that you donate, or every month, if you're on like a monthly donation, kind of a rotation, right now you donate to somewhere, they send you a receipt, and some of them have like a stuffed animal or something. And it's like, okay, like whatever. But it kind of levels the playing field, because they can now collaborate with artists. They can collaborate with games. Some of the games have some built into their smart contract give back features to foundations and charitable organizations, which are really, really cool. And, there's one like on Polygon, Purple Penguin, like we talked to them, and they have features built into their smart contract that actually make it a carbon negative project. So there's ways that you can donate back and build either carbon neutral or carbon negative projects, where everybody's really concerned about, oh, it's not environmentally friendly. Actually, you can make it more environmentally friendly than you really think.
Yeah, no kidding. So and also with royalties, right? Royalties, or it's like, if you sell something one time, right, you just get this the one, you get one sale, right? But on the blockchain or via NFTs, isn't there? And there's a way too with smart contracts that you can donate maybe a percentage, 1%, let's say, to a charity or something, like each time the piece changes hands, right? Like you could really get, like, your imagination is really all that it limits this, right? Like you can
that's how I like, one of the starting pieces I always have in the conversation on strategy sessions, I tell people, I go, okay, NFT, imagine it's a miniature supercomputer. Program this to do whatever you want. Do you want it to give back, give back 5% of everything for the next 5 years? Then in the 5th year, have it turn into a tree, have it grow for 5 years. Then the 3rd year, turn into a black falcon, fly away, and then donate $20 million to somebody. Like, you can literally program these things to do anything over time for as long as you want.
Right. And yeah. So just literally just your imagination is all
It
is what
really is,
limits
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I know there is somebody out there that has built, and I wish I remember the name of it, but they built an NFT that just shows a tree growing over a 20-year period. So if you buy this NFT over the next 20 years that you're holding it, the metadata is going to refresh and it's going to show this tree growing over a 20-year period.
Oh
It's just
wow.
totally yeah,
Yeah.
it's just total trip out, and you can just
Yeah.
program that in.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? And
Yeah.
right, and some of the other stuff you could do, like I was reading about this guy named Tom Below. He has a podcast called The Impact Theory. It's
Oh yeah.
pretty big. Yeah. He was talking about, how NFTs can even disrupt media and like, things that things that like I'm trying to do and things that he does. So this is also, I mean, across almost every sector imaginable, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah, every sector imaginable. And like, I talk to some guys on a regular basis at Meta X Studios, which is kind of an animation studio that was started by ex Disney, ex Marvel guys, like very high level animation. And the way they kind of view it, um, at first they're like, okay, well, here's how animation typically works: is you go to an investor and you say, hey, can we borrow $15 million and give it back to you in 5 years? Maybe, but probably not. They're like, that's not a very good investment pitch.
Right.
But if you can use that animation and those comic books as kind of like an accelerator program, you can still do traditional media. It's just that you started with an NFT and you started, you know, I told them, and we kind of go on this thesis of it's very cheap to produce an NFT. It's very expensive to produce a real TV show or a real movie in comparison. So just take like your 10 or 15 favorite projects, turn them into NFTs, see what the best one is or the best three with the audience, like the three that just resonate the most. Then take those, because you already have a proof of concept that the market wants it. Take those and push them into like actual TV production and movie production. So it's kind of like an incubator for your larger traditional projects at like a low entry cost.
Wow. Yeah. So that trend would probably continue more and more. That more and more startups too will tokenize and come onto the blockchain.
Yeah.
It's like a black hole. It's going to eventually swallow everything, I would imagine, right?
Yeah,
uh,
I think so.
Polygon has some really interesting collaborations and partnerships. They were very active the last 12 months. It's like every day, pretty much, you read about somebody integrating with Polygon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that must be a great place to work. What are a couple collaborations or partnerships that are more geared into your department, which is the NFT lead? But what are like one or two projects or partnerships that you're looking at or excited about right now?
I mean, probably the one everybody knows and that everyone's like always always working through on the NFT side is Zed Run. Zed Run has obviously like been a big hit. Decentraland has been a big hit. Avagachi is a big hit. Those are really fun to work with. We are working and talking to a lot of AAA game studios as well. They just take a little bit longer to get projects out. And I mean, that's like any typical game project. You talk to these guys that make these real like high end games, like they're a big process even without the blockchain. And their biggest hurdle right now is actually figuring out in-game economics, because you go from where me and you buy a weapon or buy a skin to like get through a level and look cool, that's fine. The company has our money, we have the thing, that's the end. You can like model that out pretty easily. Now when you're turning the entire universe into a garage sale, it's like, okay, I bought this weapon, I passed the level, I could sell it, but the money comes to me. I could just give it to you for free, and then you could pass the level, and then you could give it to someone else forever. So it's like, to figure out that economy for a lot of these AAA game studios that have 500,000, a million users like in their entire ecosystem, um, super tough. So like, I know Axie Infinity is a big one that's out there that they obviously built on Ronin, their own like blockchain system, but it's that small love potion, like the economics of it are pretty pretty shaky. Like it's pretty risky because it's just the way that it was thought of. Like it does well. It's a great game. Um, but I mean, we talk to game economists all the time, from like the guys that started World of Warcraft and like Final Fantasy and that, and they're like, a lot of these things are very easy to bot, like simple grind mechanics that you can just bot and have people win these tokens all the time. So their thesis on it is like, you have to make it where it's easy enough for 80% of humans to do, but it's impossible for a bot to do. So they kind of lean more on like the create to earn economy. So when you're in these big like metaverses, Decentraland type things, like they actually, you need to contribute a little bit more than just like running around in a circle and like doing a fight. Like, they'll give you like some attributes, like take these 10 elements and create your own block of land. Okay, like that's pretty hard for a bot to do, but it's kind of fun for a human to do, and then you could actually be rewarded for it. So that's why you don't see a lot of AAA game studios out there yet. It's just simply like they're working on the economics of it, because it's way more complex and actually for them it's way less profitable to be on the blockchain, but they know that they still need to be there.
Oh, is it less profitable? Why so?
Well, because right now they just have that one-way transaction where I buy a weapon, they keep the money, and the thing or whatever it is that I bought just stays in my my arsenal. Like I can't resell it. Now you would think, okay, but if I resell that, they could have a built-in royalty. That's true, but I could also just be giving this thing to people, and people could be finishing the game on borrowed items or stuff that's been passed down, and then the game kind of fizzles out because everybody's already beat it using borrowed goods. So it's like it's a really like complex system they're trying to work through, and then just even developing a game in general is already a long process. But they'll get there. I mean, it's all going to get there.
Yeah, and that in the gaming space especially was the one. It was like low hanging fruit. That's why I wanted to talk about consumer brands. I wanted to talk about sporting and entertainment, because I feel like gaming is kind of a given. Like that's where it's supposed to be. It's the first, right after art, it's going to be gaming, and then really steamroll from there. That's kind of my take. But
I think that too. But I mean, I think on the collectible side, like I'm glad you hit on the sports and that stuff, because even though yes, I'm at Polygon, like I believe people that are launching like low mint number projects, they should totally, even though the gas is expensive, you should totally mint on layer 1 Ethereum. Like it makes more sense because that's where all the buyers are.
right.
But in a gaming economy, when you have to do 100,000 transactions an hour, that's going to be too expensive for sure. And then when you're talking about industrial sector, when you're talking about millions of transactions or millions of parts and pieces you have to track per hour, per day, I mean, that kind of scaling it's going to take multiple solutions. I mean, it's just it's a big beast.
Yeah, and like we talked about throughout the interview. I mean, it's still so early in the space, and whoever nails these and makes it seamless is going to be very, very successful. Very.
Yeah, whoever can move us from the dial-up modem to like the Ethernet, like that's going to help quite a bit.
Yeah. Not to bring up, I love Polygon and I love Polkadot. I love both of them for what they do. The idea of interoperability, because that's where I know we need to be.
Yeah.
I just hope one, the other, both. I don't. It doesn't matter to me. It's like whoever, just get it done.
Yeah. And I mean, I even, I always talk about Hedera Hashgraph. I talk about Flow for particular things. Like Hedera Hashgraph is great for, municipal and like industrial sector and stuff like that, because it's just like, it's a total mathematically based ledger. I mean, they don't have a marketplace. You can't put pictures on there, but like, as far as being a distributed ledger, it's perfect for stuff that like major supply chain companies need. I mean, you could always build it on Polygon too. I'm not gonna like diss that, but
Yeah. Oh, Polygon's great. I love Polygon. Yeah, Polygon's great. But I see a world with multiple blockchains that kind of interoperate. That's kind of the world I hope for.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Well, Charles, that was all the questions I had. Do you want to mention anything or tell people to check something out By the way,
Yeah.
all the links are in the description for Charles's Twitter and his LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Twitter. If you're going to be at NFT NYC, definitely message me on one of those. I'll be a speaker on one of the panels there. Yeah.
When is that? When is that?
November 1st through 4th.
1 through 4. Do you know when you're speaking?
I don't, and I don't even know the topic. They just kind of threw me on a panel and said, "Can you do this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure."
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure you're going to do great, man. Thank you so much for doing this. You were a great
Totally.
guest. Had a great time talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
If you guys are still watching, thank you so much. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this. And remember that this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment and education purposes. Thank you so much for watching.